share out a couple things. What did you notice? What did you hear? What did you guys talk about? Anything you want to share? Yes.
We talked about the fact that when you're introducing the task to them, and how it's a little strange for them, for anyone really, that the directions come after the prompt.
Yeah. Yeah.
So talking to them about that, and then the way that like a lot of them are used to the setup of the regions, in which case the guidelines can really serve as like a checklist, and that doesn't have this. So teaching them how to separate and pull out the things that they need to focus on.
Like really, what is the task?
Right, what am I doing?
Like, what are they really asking me to do? I think it's very important. Yeah.
And we talked a little bit about teaching what the task is without necessarily having a reading, so that they're confident with whatever the reading is, what they have to do is the same, regardless. And so it ends up being okay that the directions come after, because you know, well, this is what I have to do with this reading.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe you could also, I think it's significant to let them know how the essay is graded in terms of how do you get a 56 or higher. So you give them a breakdown.
Yeah. We'll go over the rubric and all that.
Also, we said like having like them do more than one. So like the first time maybe have like a teacher like kind of like a checklist, and they can use a checklist to write their first example, their first essay, and then maybe have a different prompt later where you kind of wean them off of the checklist, but just giving them different ways to, and then they coming up with a checklist that they can use, and then eventually doing enough practice, they don't need that. It's kind of embedded.
Yeah, that's a really good suggestion. I think, this is a very different type of writing than the regions. I think, do you want to say anything about that? I'm putting you on the spot now. I mean, it's very different. They're coming into this, and it's difficult for them at first because it's not really clear. Like kind of an argument, but not really. They're like, what is the main idea? Well, it's kind of like that significant point. It's hard. Like they want an outline, but then on the other hand, it's hard to give them an outline. Like it's a big. But this is the type of writing that they're doing in college, which is reading something and then responding to it. I really talk about it a lot as a conversation, that you are having this conversation with the author where you're saying, okay, here's what this author is saying, like here's what is important, and here's why I know that's important. I know it's important because of these things that I have learned or experienced in my life. And that's difficult, right? I mean, did anyone have, I don't know how far you got in it, but in terms of thinking of that personal anecdote or idea, is that easy, difficult?
I think it's difficult for the kids because the main point is coming from within themselves, rather than being told what the main point is that they need to address.
Yes.
Right. So maybe sometimes by showing them like some of the sample essays, I help them, see how you can do that.
Great. And then Sherry and then
Actually, it's more like an objective essay,
yeah.
and that's what the Common Core, that's what they work on now in high school in the Common Core. So I think it may be a little easier for them because of the Common Core, especially engage in why they address the writing objective essay.
I'm sorry. Sherry and Chris, yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I know too. Like when I was in college, like I taught like how to write the essay like this at City College, and what I told a lot of students too is use the rubric. Like, well, they didn't have the rubric at the time, but during the workshops, we had the rubric, and you look at a 6. Does your essay have these things, and teach them to really understand the criteria, because then they can understand like how to write the essay. So like teaching them how to write this is good, but also teaching them like how it's scored. Even if you make it student friendly, like it doesn't have to say the exact words of the rubric, but even if you just change the terminology or keep the terminology the same, but put like a student word to define what that means, because even with the state exams, I know like because my students knew what the rubric was and kind of knew what a 2 looked like and a 1 looked like, they kind of knew like what should it have, and especially because as a rater, all the rater's gonna do is look at the rubric, say, oh, they don't have this, let me drop them to a 4. Oh, they don't have this, let me drop them to a 3. It's, they're using it as a checklist. So you have to teach your students like how to rater things too.
I mean, Chris and I.
Yeah, I know we've modified the English regents, where today you probably only have one essay and 2 short responses, whereas the older regents had 3 3 essays. Now, this particular essay is so similar to one of those 3 essays that students wrote. It was called Reading and Writing for Information and Understanding, where you had to engage the actual reading. This one is asking students to do that, so those skills are needed, and needed in high school and beyond.
Right, so I'm just gonna move on a little bit and then maybe, I forgot to mention that, the reading and writing are separate tests because, they are separate developmental courses. So there's a reading developmental course and a writing developmental course. So a student can place out of reading, but still have to place it into writing. So if a student passes the reading, which the score is a 70 to pass, then that's it, like they're out of remedial reading. But if they don't pass writing, which is a 56 to pass, and I can talk a little bit about the grading, that's a little complicated, I'll talk about it when we get to the rubric, but that they still have to take remedial writing. So they're separate developmental courses. And one other thing about the developmental courses is that students don't get credit. They don't get any college credit for them. So you know, they pay for them. So a lot of times what ends up happening is they might use all their financial, if they have to take developmental courses, sometimes all their financial aid goes to developmental courses and they haven't earned any college credits, and it's very disheartening. And it can, you know,
It's
there's
one of the major reasons why they drop out.
Yes.
Mrs. Obama's been talking about this.
yeah, it's a huge, you know, we can provide statistics around that, but, you know, it's something like 80% of students go into at least one developmental course. And, you know, I think that it just really, the data shows that it increases their time to graduate. So, you know, I think that there's like it's average 6 years, 3 years, 6 years to complete a 3-year and associate's degree. You know, so it's really, that's why, I mean, I don't want to scare the kids, but the CUNY placement exam, you know, it is something that's very important. If, you know, for student success in college. And I think that, you know, that's why this test, you know, when they take that test, that's their score. Like, it's not a practice, right? So that's why when you practice with them, you're giving them this exposure. So yeah, they know, oh wow, where are the directions? They're gonna know the directions. They're gonna feel really confident. They're gonna have practiced this. Like, they're gonna know. They're gonna have all the skills that you've been building with them, that they're gonna bring to this test, that they're gonna be able to use and do.
Do you ever track them? I mean, I'm just curious to know how they're doing.
Well, that's part of our, you know, what we use to report to our funders is the 3rd semester retention rate. So I think we can give that to you. Yeah, we can give that to you.
So one thing I didn't mention is that some of the returning schools have heard the word apricot, which last year was the first time we put together the picture of a student holistically from high school through college. And we were planning on launching, we launched it to the college side in January and we launched it to Bridge in April. So this was basically a tool that we thought would be helpful for the schools to use to create an individualized educational learning plan for each student. So there's a table for creating scholarships, you know, that the student is applying to, for applying to college, tracking what they apply to in CUNY, ranking the 6 schools, also a financial aid table that tracks all of the different financial aid, goals. So this is something that we're definitely going to be continuing to use on the college side, and in Bridge, we weren't sure to what extent it might be useful for the schools, because I know a lot of the new vision schools have their own tool, and the ones who aren't with a network, may not find the time or find it useful. So to whatever extent you do think it's important, I think maybe in a future PD in September, once everything is sort of, all of our tools, both Apricot and the other one for online collaboration of the curricula, once both of those platforms are available, we can demo it in the next PD and talk about whether schools want to use it. We can give you the usernames and IDs if it is helpful. But anyway, the whole point of why I brought this up is that we have hired a part-time database administrator, which you saw from our team document that I shared. Her name is Kate. She's starting technically this Thursday. You'll meet her at the combined PD, but she'll start officially full-time on the 14th. Full-time meaning full-time as a part-time person. Works, I think, 19 hours a week. And her job will be to be the expert in Apricot and take all of the data that we're going to be uploading from all the different sources, including the DOE, including college, etc., and to create individual reports for the schools to look at the historical, to look at what's happening. We are planning on tracking PD attendance of the staff. We're using that as a tool to track, all kinds of different things. So hopefully we can use it, to help you do your job better and take a look at that. And maybe share it in sometime in winter and spring.
But to see if there's a strong correlation between high success and good performance in PD.
Well, maybe we think there's a correlation,
great.
right?
Yes, anyone that comes to PD, their students pass the exam and graduate from college. So, okay, one other thing about the writing is that the passage is always about 250 to 300 words. It's an excerpted passage, meaning that it's from a longer article. Usually, the test writers say it's at or around the 12th grade reading level, from publications like Psychology Today, New York Times, Wall Street Journal. So that's something to think about. But they're always excerpted, which can make their reading a little bit tricky because they're not always getting the whole thing. So that's something to keep in mind, I think, when you are teaching this too. What?
No, I was gonna say we should expose them more and more to
Yeah.
working with that sort of thing.
Yeah, because they miss things.
Right.
Excerpted. Sometimes the excerpted text just doesn't make sense. So I think the reading becomes really done carefully. Okay, so we're gonna move into looking at the test as a team of test raters. Something about the raters is that they read through these essays very quickly. They read them once through. It's like when you apply for a job and people say people won't spend more than 30 seconds on your resume, which is true, right? I mean, unless they come back to the second look and they're like, okay. But that's what the raters do. I mean, they read at a pretty quick clip. They don't stop to say, what is the student really trying to say, like we do as teachers. We really work with students to pull out what they're trying to say and what they want, how they want to express themselves. The raters they read through. So your challenge now is to read the sample. There's 4 sample essays that follow the prompts A, B, C, and D. And to not read it as a teacher, to read it as a rater, like quickly. I mean, not super quickly, but like at a quick clip, please. And then you're gonna sort into what you think is low, middle, and high. So which of these essays you think is low, middle, high?